would like to share with you about Dr. Kevin Egrath this evening. He's a highly regarded marriage coach with a passion to heal wounded marriages. He believes that true love can be revived in hurting marriages and has witnessed it countless times. His sincere compassion for helping others makes him an engaging and inspirational speaker. So with that, I will introduce Kevin Egrath, Complaint versus Criticism. Complaint versus Criticism, Kevin Egrath.
Complaint versus criticism. I'm a big opponent for complaints in marriage. I think it's really important that we're all given the right to have complaints in our marriage. The important part is the intent. That's the difference. That's a differentiating word right there, the intent. So the intent of a complaint is to build the marriage, is to address a problem so that we can have a better marriage. It's to bring positivity. It's to help our spouse. It's to help us. It's all about improving and increasing the marriage. So in contrast to that would be a criticism. A criticism is a way of bringing up a complaint, but it's a very negative way. It's a way that you kind of put somebody down. You could have done this better, or, this is just a terrible thing that you did. Why did you do that? So it's kind of like the polar opposites there. I think there's one fundamental premise that you've got to understand before I go on with this. You see, when you get married, you're passionately in love with each other. And everything you do will affect your spouse. Everything. Positively, negatively. It'll be a big effect or a small effect. Sometimes you think it's a small effect and it's a big effect. Everything we do has an effect. And I categorize these effects into love raisers, which is a good thing. It improves the romantic love in your relationship. And love unwinders, that destroys the romantic love in your marriage. Everything that we do has an impact on the love in our marriage. So that's a fundamental premise to understand. So if there's a problem in the marriage and we just sweep it under the rug, we don't want to address that complaint, the problem remains. We didn't deal with it. The love unwinder remains. But if we handle that complaint as a criticism and we criticize our spouse, now we just perform the love unwinder to our spouse. It doesn't resolve problems very well when you criticize your spouse, and you just detracted from the relationship on top of it. Some couples, they handle complaints very well. They say, well, thank you for telling me that. I didn't realize. I'm terribly sorry. I'll try to make sure that doesn't happen again. And other couples, they haven't exactly refined that skill yet. And their emotions start to get agitated. Their body releases adrenaline. They can feel the anxiety start to build. And you have one or two reactions. What's your intuitive reaction? Are you a fighter or are you a flighter? Do you run from a problem? Do you fight? Do you engage in battle, an argument? You're going to have a more persuasive lecture. What's your style? See, the one who has a fighting tendency, it's really important to understand if you have that tendency, if that's your intuitive style, so then you can resist that. And you can try to remember to be calm, communicate the problem. Don't express it, just communicate it. And if you have a tendency to flight or to run from problems, to run from conflict, to run from a complaint, it's equally important, and probably more so, to resist that tendency. You see, much is said about fighting, and I have my intuitive style is to fight. I'm a type A personality. I have to resist that. Everybody knows that that's probably doesn't work real well. But the flight tendency is very, very damaging too, and gets very little attention, and it can do just as much damage in a marriage. So if you have a flight tendency, you want to always remember that when you're delivering a complaint, that you don't sugarcoat it, that you don't make it less impressive. You want your spouse to know how it truly impacted you. There's a saying that communication doesn't happen until the other person knows what I mean and how I feel, and they know it so well that they can repeat it back to me. So people that are a little bit nervous about conflict, a little bit nervous about handling complaints, it's very important that they learn how to thoroughly communicate that complaint so that it can be addressed and that it can be handled. And then, of course, there's the delivery of the complaint. There's a fine line between a complaint and a criticism. So any complaint that has a judgment attached automatically became criticism. So I'll give you an example of that. If you were to say, you spend too much time golfing, the judgment is too much time. That's just a judgment. And that's open for interpretation. And the other person's perspective, they maybe don't think that they do spend too much time. And what happens is that judgment detracts from the main point. The main point is that you're terribly bothered by it, that you're terribly hurt by that. It detracts from the fundamental premise, which I mentioned earlier to you. And you can get all caught up in this judgment and arguing about the judgment. Is it too much time? Is it not too much time? So if we're going to really thoroughly deliver a complaint and do it properly that can be well received, we have to take all the judgment out of it. In the case of the golfing example that I gave you, it'd probably be better to say, when you go golfing, I feel terribly alone. I feel left alone. I feel disconnected from you. I would like to have more time with you. And so that puts the problem on you. It's my problem. It's how I'm feeling. And if you'd like to, you can help me out with that. And there's no judgment attached to it at all whatsoever. Then, of course, equally important to delivering the complaint is the response, having an appropriate response. So that could be a very self-defensive response. Well, I didn't mean that. You shouldn't have taken it that way. You should know me good enough by now. I didn't mean to hurt you. That shouldn't hurt your feelings. You should know me by now. Those kind of responses prompt people not to give a marital complaint. They prompt a person, just be quiet next time, don't deal with it next time, because you're not going to get a very good response, and then all these problems just get swept under the rug, resentment builds in your own heart, and romantic love dies in your own heart towards your spouse. So an appropriate response, here's the point. At this very point, the response point, you have a tremendous opportunity of a marital lifetime. You have the opportunity to demonstrate your care, to demonstrate your love. Right there, right then. You can say, I'm sorry. I really am sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. Please accept my apology. It's a perfect opportunity not to be defensive, but to show your care, to show your love in that very, very moment. Sometimes people will say, well, my spouse shouldn't be offended. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it that way. It was just an accident. They shouldn't be offended. Well, I want to share a little story with you. You guys have heard the Jolly Green Giant, right? Big old giant, big dude, strong, real happy, real jolly. Well, one thing you didn't know about the Jolly Green Giant is that his visual depth perception and peripheral vision is very limited. So this big Jolly Green Giant, when he turns around quick, he doesn't see people. And elbows right at their face level. And so he hits people by accident, right in the nose. Totally by accident, but just practically clocks them out cold, right? Blood's coming down and everything. Now when the Jolly Green Giant says, well, it was just an accident, I'm sorry. You shouldn't be hurt because I didn't mean to do it. So it shouldn't hurt you. Meanwhile, the blood's pouring down out of their face, right? So obviously, the Jolly Green Giant's a happy guy. He didn't mean to do it, but the pain is still there. That's the point. And so in our relationships, if we say something a little harsher than we should have, come home from work, not in a great mood, we're a little bit shorter with our spouse than we should have, and we hurt their feelings, the injury is nonetheless real. It's very, very real. Even though we didn't mean it, even though we're good-hearted people, we still injured them. And it would be appropriate, because it was an accident, to say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Please accept my forgiveness. And then the next step in handling a complaint is to make a plan. You don't just say you're sorry, go on and do it again tomorrow, right? So you got to make a plan. And the plan should involve how you can prevent it from happening again next time. In the case of the Jolly Green Giant, he's going to say, okay, I'm very sorry, accident. Every time I turn around from now on, I'm going to turn my head first before I turn my shoulders. At least you put a plan in place. So if it's a person coming home from work and they're kind of snarly once in a while, right? So what would a good plan be? Well, when I get home from work, I'm going to take a 10-minute time out, maybe grab a quick something to drink just to refresh myself, and I'm going to be extra careful about my words for the first half hour or hour once I get home. So you put a plan in place to try to make sure that the offense isn't reoccurring continuously. And it's a wonderful, wonderful showing of care, especially when you go out of your way, go out of your comfort zone to try to do something to convey your love for your spouse. So I really hope that you guys have seen the difference today between a complaint versus a criticism. And I hope that you will use complaints appropriately in your marriage to help improve the marriage, to help increase the love, and help increase the intimacy. If you found this helpful tonight, there's some really good information on marriagepartnersministry.com that can help you out. I'd encourage you to share it with friends of yours. Remember, what you make happen for others, God will make happen for you. Thank you.